Round two. For
We
those
had
of
some
you,
technical difficulties, but we're here.
yes, we're here. For those of you that enjoyed our quick 5 seconds of a tease, because then we were here talking for 15 minutes without you. Like,
I know, well,
until
that
we
was actually
realized
very funny. We
it,
talked for a while.
it is. And that's kind of how we met, in a very long conversation with Kelly from Justice for Marilyn Manson. Everyone,
Yes.
this is Alana from Legally Dirty Blonde podcast. Welcome to True Crime and Legal Update. And I usually am much better at streaming than this. At least getting it started anyway.
Hey, you're much better than I could ever be. So thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to talk about the updates in this case. As you know, it hits very close to home for me. Um,
Yeah.
I was born and raised on Long Island, so I know a lot about this case.
I remember when we first spoke, the case came up, and it was like you'd been following it for a long time, longer even than I. Like, yeah. So I'm very, very honored to have you here because you have it. Also, being a professional, you're very unbiased. I like your take on stuff. You're very balanced. You don't let us go crazy, even when we all get in our feels about certain stuff in certain cases. Like you're like, well, wait a minute now. The truth is, I read legal documents every day with my coffee, but that's only one side of it. It's only one side of it until trial. Like, it,
Yes, even when you already, even if you already know how you're kind of feeling about something, I always have to remind myself, we really don't know what's going on yet, so we got to wait for all the evidence to come out.
mhm, yep, exactly. And that's what I love about you because, like, even on Twitter, and I have to feel I'm right behind you. Like, I feel for you because I get bashed on Twitter all the time. They're like, how could you say this? Like, it's so obvious the person is like um so guilty, this, that, and other thing. I'm like, you can't interfere with the legal process. Like, don't interfere with the legal process. Like, we need to see it map out. Like, we want to watch it from the perspective of the jury, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, I can't blame people. Obviously, like a lot of these cases, especially the one we're going to talk about is it's emotional and it's a sensitive topic and I completely understand why people are passionate and emotional about it. So I do understand that, but I definitely try to interject some level of how a legal case is going to be looked at by a jury or by a judge for that matter, or
Right.
just from a defense attorney for that matter,
Hmm.
because I know most people are feeling a certain way about this case right now, and I would be
Hmm.
lying if I said I wasn't too, but you always have to leave some room for doubt in there, at least until we go to trial.
Exactly. Because, like, I mean, I'm following a case in Minot, North Dakota, where the prosecution is going forward, even though their search, which found the body in the trunk, and they have evidence he put it there, and everything that goes with it, fruit of the poisonous tree, was tossed because they didn't wait long enough for the
Wow.
judge's warrant, even though it was a missing person. It went through appeal. Okay, it went to their state's court of appeals, and they tossed the evidence. It did, the judge was going to let it in. The judge let it out. Then they appealed to let it back in. It's staying out, but the prosecution's going forward, and I can't wait to cover that one. That's Shawnee Lynn Crawl from, and he's a very bad guy. Like, he's
Oh, that
already got
sounds interesting, procedurally interesting.
procedurally, this is it. Like, I like the legal twist. The people that come to my chat and talk to me about it in my Discord and everything, they know I don't cover things because they're big or they're in the news, or because, like, I'm a YouTuber that's into making the clicks and views and the money. It's the legal, it's the twists, it's the things that are just not like normal. With this one, it was the length of time with the bodies, and the fact that this this when they finally found somebody that they put it on, the amount of the investigation. First of all, we were talking about this behind the scenes, and we'll bring it up again, that they didn't even bring the task force, a really good task force. I mean, Ray Tierney and the police commissioner that started the task force in 2022 actually got the ball rolling for identifying and getting a suspect in this case.
Absolutely.
And
This entire case was stagnant for, I mean, over a decade. Yeah,
yeah,
over a
and it was
decade.
basically one person was investigated for the obstruction, and who was in charge of everything. It was what was his last name? I know his first name is James, right? Like,
J James Burke, is that who you mean?
yeah,
The
James Burke.
the
Yeah,
former commissioner?
the former commissioner who
Yes,
was
he
like,
is who is a corrupt,
hmm
person. I was gonna be vulgar, but I
hmm
won't. Um,
yeah,
him and, the former district attorney of Suffolk County, which is where I'm from, they
hmm
both went to federal prison, not in relation to this, but,
but for
basically in
other obstruction and corruption.
connection to corruption
Mm-hmm.
in the entire, like, Suffolk County
Yeah.
PD and Suffolk County
hmm
legislator and things like that, so he's, definitely not the prime example of what a police commissioner should be, and he on top of that, he played a huge role in keeping the FBI out of this investigation, and
He refused to work with them.
yes, he actually kicked them out. He basically said, "Get out of here. We don't want you."
Yeah.
And, it's just interesting because personally, I think at this point, it's probably because he has something to do with the Shannon Gilbert situation.
I think he did. I think that they've got documentation that Shannon Gilbert called in and nobody came and found her. Okay. Like
Yes.
she was saying somebody was chasing me and they didn't send it. Like they didn't go. Like,
And, given that what we know about, what's going on with the Gilgo 4 and all of that now and what we've learned as even from
mhm.
these 2 additional, charges that are brought, you know, I am thinking that he didn't even care about this investigation because he was concerned about covering up whatever was going on with Shannon Gilbert.
I think he was, and he was also listening to the people with money that were pushing in politics because of property values and this and that. We know what it's like on the East Coast if you're involved in a shore resort area, anything like that. Political corruption is always about who's making money in the area.
Yes,
And don't
absolutely.
interfere with the commerce, okay? I'm on the East Coast near Asbury Park, and it's been years like that. And I just imagine that Long Island is the same, where all of this was happening. Property values, these are million dollar homes, beach resorts. Okay, this is not like light. And unfortunately, the people with the money get the voice sometimes. And he was in the way of justice, absolutely, because isn't it like normal, at least from what I see, when there's multiple murders, the FBI always wants to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, and also when they need when a profile's needed, and
Exactly.
that's what they needed.
You would think a police commissioner would want a profile on a serial killer from people who do it on a regular basis, that have a whole big organization around it, who created, like Mindhunters was created by the FBI, right?
Right,
Profiling in general, behavioral unit, come on.
yes,
Like,
Criminal Minds.
right, they are the gold star, and here you are like, "Nah, we got it. We're not gonna
Yep,
do anything about it for 12 years, but we got it covered. Don't worry about it. Like, we don't need you."
exactly, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
That's just for everyone in the chat, thank you so much for being here. I do apologize for the abrupt start, but I'm so happy to have Alana here to talk about this. Well, let's get to what's changed since we
Yes.
know that the last update and last that we've talked, we know that there are already the Gilgo 4 that he's being charged for. And recently there's been some updates. So let's just like get right with that. Even though we did already start with this, we'll just bring everybody else in with us with this. Okay. The recent searches. Okay. It all started while I was covering Daybell trial somewhere else. All this was going on for the last 2 months. In April, they did do searching on where the charged bodies. Everybody kind of, like, it's not a secret in the presentation. Everybody knows we're going to be covering the new charges to Rex Heuermann, who is the primary suspect for the Long Island bodies in Gilgo Beach, the bodies that have been discovered there. Okay, so they researched this Massapequa Park residence. They were there for over a week. They also went to the wooded location where Sandra Costello was found in North Sea, Southampton, which is nowhere near Gilgo Beach. We were talking about that.
Yeah, it's
It,
like about 45 minutes to an hour away, I'd say, depending on, the day.
yeah, because like if anybody looks on a map, and you know anything about geography, and you look at Alana, it's just a real long state. Okay, you go from one end to the other, and it's got like some main roads on there that are very, very congested at different times. So you can't get around as easily, but unless you're in one central part of it. The other part was Manorville Woods, where just the torso of Taylor was found. Back in 2003. Um, she's related to Gilgo Beach because of the hands and the arm and her head were found in, I believe, 2010 or 2011 with the rest of
Yes,
when
yeah,
they.
they found the rest of her in 2011,
Mhm.
pretty close to the Gilgo 4.
Yeah, like less than a mile, like, on
Yes.
that strip, like, which is peppered with unidentified bodies right now. It's like a dump. It's a dump site,
Yeah,
basically.
it is, and to be fair, I am sure that some of those bodies are not related to him, but
Hmm.
I think more will be, but with that being said, I'm sure that there are some that are not because it's a
True, because we
desolate
talk.
area, good spot to do it if you're
It's
gonna
a
do
and
something.
we've got organized crime. We're not gonna deny it. We're from the East Coast, right? A lot of like
Exactly.
we're not gonna deny that there's not a lot of organized crime, and that could it's marshy, and it's a great place for dumping the evidence. In crime happens, but they don't meet the other bodies, a lot of them do not meet the common factors that
Agreed.
are involved with all of these. Being in sex work of some type, being of slight build, you know
Being
one
a
of them is
woman,
a
one of the
one
victims
of
is
them's
a
a
male.
gentleman, right,
Yeah.
um, and, the one with the child, like, that just seems abnormal. These were all, women unattached during their escort services, not really prominent with the child being with them. So there's other things that kind of don't go with it. But they've got some evidence on here, and it's only the evidence that's in the bail application. Everything that I put up here is actually from the legal documents, like whatever's on Twitter and in the other news articles and social media. I don't really like to go down there. I like to discuss what they have, and then you know what we might think about it, because I think Alana is going to be on the remember. Defense still gets a crack at this. Okay. Right?
Yes, I most likely will be. I got myself in a little trouble with that this week, but, I'm
Mm,
just trying to
mm,
speak the legal truth, you know?
exactly. Yes, Big Zebra, I'm going to get there with that. You're going to see. I got it. Like, and thank you very much. I've got comments. Everybody's following this case. I'm so glad to see so many of you here. I'm sorry I'm not shouting you all out individually, but I'm so glad you're here to hear this. But let's get on with like some of the stuff that they found. First of all, they were there for like a week, like we said, which was I thought it was unusual that they went back. So I knew that they had found something if they were going to go look for more. Like, because were there
Yes.
for 2 weeks last year, more than 2 weeks, and they took so much out of that house. And one of the things that you and I were discussing is the fact that Asa and her daughter still live there. Like, they moved back in after all of that with him in jail. Oh, she did file for divorce. Asa did. There's talks about her having a media deal for the story,
I
because
heard for $1,000,000.
yeah, well, she's gonna need money because, like, he was an architect in New York. He was making big bucks, and it's not cheap to live where they live. Even though
No,
the
it's
house,
definitely
the
not.
house looks like it's not in a great section, but that is an expensive area. Okay,
Yeah,
the,
to be honest with you, most of Long Island is pretty expensive, and,
hmm
this is a good neighborhood, aside from the fact that you're living next to a serial killer, but other than that.
hmm
Yeah, so I also heard that she said something that she's still or I don't know if I'm sure her attorney said it, that she's still very finds it very hard to believe that he would be involved in something like this,
Well,
which I
because well, if you lived with a man, just think of this. She's got two. There's two children in the house. She's got a special needs son. She has her daughter there. She's lived with him day in and day out. She doesn't see him the way we see him. We're being introduced to him, the
as
worst of
this.
him, right?
Yeah.
And she got to live with what could be called the best of him. Okay, all
Which
this time. All
probably
right.
isn't great either, but
He's kind of, I have to say, he's got a presence. He's a huge man.
Eh, oh,
He is
yes.
scary looking.
Easily
Okay.
identifiable, which is shocking considering,
When you
given what
when
we
you
know
look at
so far.
when you look at the testimony in the bail document about witness IDs and stuff, it is that he was like shot, and especially with Shannon Gilbert, and you brought this up before, that perhaps that commissioner might have been involved, because there was clear, they clearly identified a large man, a scary, the neighbors reported it, they identified the vehicle. There was enough, like, there was something wrong there, okay,
Oh,
and no
absolutely. Yeah,
one did
we
anything.
should do a whole stream about that. I could talk about that for a very long time.
We will. After this, we'll book. 'Cause definitely, there's a lot
Yes.
to talk about there. The corruption that happened there, which is an aside to this case, it was the delay in the case for sure. It definitely, when they pulled this all together after 2022, when you think about how quickly they did the round the clock surveillance and what they pulled together, which there's a link to the playlist below, people, if you're new to this case or new to my channel. All of that is documented with another presentation of all the evidence in there on the pizza crust and the phone calls and the burners and him buying the burners. There's actually video of him buying the burners. I mean, there's a lot, okay? But that's all in other videos that we're not going to have time to go into right now. But check them out if you're just a little behind on that stuff or need a refresher. Well, the reason we're talking is because after all of those searches, there was a hearing on June 6th, 2024, which I do believe he was going to have a hearing anyway, because he's got motions out there, like,
Yes.
But during this hearing, his attorney, Michael Brown, and Rex Heuermann were presented with two new murder charges, second-degree murder for Sandra Costello, and for
Jessica Taylor.
Jessica. Yes, her first name was Jessica Taylor. And what's remarkable about this is the second degree murder charge for Sandra Costello is from 1993. Yeah, 1993. Now, we thought that was really old when we were getting a case from 2007. Now we have 1993 and 2003, which means and I say if, Rex Heuermann is the Long Island serial killer, he's been at it for a long time.
Yeah, since he was what is that, 29? It would have been
Yeah.
29
As
years
a
old?
young man, he's almost his whole architectural career in New York. Like, he was active on this. And when we start to go over this superseded bail application with what they pulled together to do these new charges, it's pretty astounding.
It is. And to be fair, I mean, this, obviously all of this is still allegedly, but the 1993 murder of Sandra Castillo, that may not have been the first one. We don't know yet. That's just the first
Exactly.
one that we know about.
Exactly. Sandra Castillo was found in that wooded area, nowhere near Gilgo Beach, with her shirts pulled up over her head, her arms up, uh, along the same pattern of mutilization and death that the other bodies have had, but it was not associated with at first at all. Basically, because it's nowhere near it. Okay. And also because they found it right away in 1993. Somebody found found the remains. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
I think it
and
was two hunters in the area or something like that.
yeah, two hunters in the area. The same thing with Jessica. Her torso was found in a wooded area by someone walking their dog. The head and the hands and part of the arms were removed. And we'll get to that part of the evidence later, but they actually found her head and arms during, like you said, in 2011, they identified all of that, and identified her because she had a tattoo, and they were able to identify the torso back in 2003. So they knew who she was, and they were then able to match that up pretty quickly in 2011 when they found the rest. But these are second degree murder charges. Now,
Yes.
And I was interested to talk to you about that, Alana, because all over Twitter, in some actual YouTube lawyers, and I'm not mentioning any names, really went to town on these second-degree murder stuff, and there was a lot of misinformation as to the statute difference between first-degree murder and second-degree murder in New York
Yes,
specific.
and I
Okay.
I actually saw a lot of different things. We talked a little bit about it before. The first thing being that, people were saying that the statute of limitations had run out, meaning there was no more time to bring the charges. Well, that's obviously not correct. There is no statute of limitations on murder. It's a Class A
Mhm,
felony in New York.
mhm, mhm,
Um, or s of and it so second-degree murder is also a Class A felony in New York,
mhm,
so also no statute of limitations. Another thing I was seeing was that, about intent, excuse me, not intent, premeditation, and
mhm.
that, people were saying, "Oh, second-degree murder doesn't require premeditation." That's not true either.
No,
So
because, like,
yeah, go ahead.
based on some more evidence that we're gonna see, premeditation is not the reason that first-degree murder was not
Certainly
listed,
not,
because
certainly
he's a serial killer. I mean, I let's just explain the statute. I see where the misinformation came because I read the statutes. And when I read about the timing, when Ray Tierney said in his press conference that it was the timing, right? Some people misinterpreted that to mean statute of limitations.
right,
That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the legal language of the statute,
exactly.
which said in multiple murders they had to be committed within an 18 to 20-month time frame together.
I think it was actually just a 20. Was it 18? I thought
He
it was
said
20.
18, but I read 20. So, like, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt in
I think it's
case, like,
actually 24. I think it's 2
yeah,
years.
like, and obviously 2003 and 1993 are not close enough to 2010 and 2011. And
Right,
that's
nor
what
nor are either of them close enough to the other 4 that are already charged. So
right
that's
now
why they couldn't
and
do first degree.
that's why the other one for Maureen Brainerd Barnes is only second degree also,
Yes.
because it's 2007. It's not close enough to the other three, but the ones from 2010 and 2011 are first degree murder. Now they all have second degree murder charges on there also. All
Mhm.
six have second degree murder. And that's, would you agree they do that in prosecution to make sure that, like, you're going down for murder? I don't care if they can't find it in first, like, you're going down for second, you're going down for
Yeah,
something.
so basically, if they are unable to like, let's say in the 3 that are charged, that he's charged with first degree murder, let's say they only find that he, killed one of them. The other 2 can
Mhm,
still you can still be found guilty of second degree murder, even if it's not even if or let's say they couldn't find a common scheme or plan, like, that's part of the statute as well.
mhm,
If they don't prove that, they can still be found he can still be found guilty of second degree murder even if there was no common scheme or plan, because that's not
mhm,
part of the second degree murder charge.
exactly. And although we're going to see stuff that they might be, be able to put all that in there, but it gives them a wider berth to actually prove the charges, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Oh, those of you that follow me, we just did that with the Daybell trial, where conspiracy was the second charge on top of murder, just in case. Well, the jury got tied up in the fact that we could not prove he laid hands on anybody. You know, so, like, they just charged all the way through in often, just like in New York. I think in New York, don't do we not have also the added charges of increased aggravation for, like, if a gun was used in violent crime?
Yes, you
Yeah,
can
right.
depending on the situation, yes.
Mhm. And in some states, I'm not sure about New York, but also if it's a child under the age of 13 or 14 or
Yeah,
something, or if
there's
it's a minor.
aggravating,
Yeah, aggravating charges that can be added in circumstances.
yeah, and I don't think we're gonna see any. I know this man had a ton of, firearms at his house, but I don't think in this case we're gonna see
I
any
think the only saving grace we could say right now about him is he was married and that there's no minors involved
very
currently.
true.
Yeah,
At least
very
at
true.
least there's
Yeah.
that.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, but I'm glad we clarified that because it was actually just the wording, but I was a little shocked to see an actual I watched a legal YouTuber actually search it online and still come up with the wrong information.
And still say that there was a statute of
And I'm like,
limitations argument.
apparently I've got immaculate Google skills compared to some lawyers. I don't know. It's like I don't have the law book to look. I just compared
I
the
can't
actual,
imagine not wanting to make sure you're correct about saying something like that, especially when it's supposed to be
you know,
your
it,
area of expertise.
to be fair, I mean, one, it's YouTuber first and, you know,
Lawyer second.
lawyer second, and you're dealing with a live chat and trying to answer a question. So I do got to give them a little bit of grace there. But
Okay,
I,
that's fair.
I I was a little bit like, listen, if I could find it, I Googled it just as fast as you do at the same time. And that's not what it says. And I was getting all upset. I'm like, that's not what it says. Like, dude, like, stop. That's not
Between
what
you and I,
it
you're gonna have to tell me later who that was, because now I'm curious.
says. Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to disparage anybody. I didn't go I'm not a
not
lawyer. I'm
publicly.
just a woman named Bear with a microphone. That's it. That's it. That's the extent of my expertise. Um, I just like this stuff. It's like a hobby.
Yeah,
But
but you know what? You can learn a lot from just researching this stuff. It can be
mhm.
very interesting. While sensitive, it's interesting, you know?
It is, and it does get hard, especially if there's like kids involved and stuff like that. I get
Yeah,
like
and even just,
mhm,
all these
mhm,
innocent victims, it's a difficult topic for
mhm.
some people.
The age of these women, they're all younger, they're slight built, they're small.
Yes.
Sandra Castillo is a little bit on the outside there because she was an immigrant. She's from Tobago, and she was not actually. They said she may have been in the escort, but there's no real concrete proof that like she was actually in the business. But for him to have contact with her, he came across her somehow, some way.
Yep.
So, um, but for the type,
But I agree,
definitely.
it's not his it's not his not allegedly his type
Mhm.
generally.
Well, like I'll just play prosecution here to your defense. Like, well, a serial killer's got to start somewhere.
It's very true.
This, you know, he-
There's gotta be a first, right?
there's got to be a first, exactly. And we're not sure if it is, but
It's the only
when we
one
get
we
a
know, the
when we
earliest one that we know of, at least.
exactly. But they're pretty confident in their investigation is so far has been really kind of thorough. This was a map from another source, one of the news organizations, I believe, where it shows you Harriman's home regards to where they found Sandra Castillo. Because, like Alana said, look how far out that is up in the top right corner. If you guys can see that little red dot, that is like way, like she said, an hour away. And you could see what I'm talking about. Long Island just being this long strip there. And also that Jessica Taylor's body was found in 2011, and it's like a mile away from where the other grouping was. So that would like he's in the same area basically, but he's not like going to the same place. Why he decided to put the four other bodies so close together, like I don't know. Like that seemed like a mistake. But
Like, he was keeping trophies, I think.
he might have been emboldened. I mean, he's like well into it by now. It's 2011 if he started in 1993, right? Like it's like, quite a few years. And I'm wondering between uh 1993 and 2011 how many more in different
Yes.
areas, because this man had connections to the Carolinas. He had family down there. They found the vehicle down there. They searched down there in the
Vegas too,
beginning.
right?
Yes, in Vegas too. So he has the means. He was successful and he had money, and who knows? Like, don't think that it would be so periodic like this. Is not from what I've read in
No,
serial
it's
killers.
generally not. It's
Yes,
generally not. I mean, can they stop? Sure. I mean, look
yeah,
at the Golden State Killer, but
exactly.
it's not common.
No, it's not, and we don't know why the Golden State Killers
I
really
believe, didn't he
stopped.
get married or have a kid or something like
I
that?
think it's just opportunity. He got married and he didn't have the free time he had. Like people would see what he was doing. But not him. Like, but there's the other thing about this is that all of these killings happened. Now they're thinking in the home.
Yes.
because one of the things that they focused on when they went back for the search, and this is coming right from the DA's office, okay, whether you see it in articles or not, the DA's is saying they found remnants of tape, they found remnants of trying to cover up things, they found remnants of where they might have been cleaning up for blood or whatever, and things like that. And also that all of the opportunity, even back in 1993, as we're going to discuss, that the house was empty. It was still the same house. He was living there prior to 1993 with his mother. And then he was married in 1990, short-lived marriage to Elizabeth Ryan, less than a year, about a year. They separated. He's living, his mother's living in this house. He's bought this house, I believe, from her. It's his family
Yes, it
home.
was. I think he grew up in that
Mhm.
home, as far as I remember.
He started to live with another woman, okay, who moved out 2 months before the killing of Sandra Collins. The mother had moved out the month before that.
Yes, his mom and this girlfriend or whatever she was considered to him left
Mhm.
around the same time, and it seems like that may have possibly been the first killing,
Uh,
but
it,
we
it,
don't
it
know.
may have been what they're calling, it could be a catalyst. Like, this is the second time a woman has just loved and left me, and just like boop, whatever the reason.
Ye-
I don't know. He had a short-lived marriage, not successful. Then he has this a relationship with this other woman, and she leaves him. But what they're focusing on in the DA's office, for prosecution, is the fact that he had untethered access to do whatever he wanted
to the home,
in his
right?
home.
Because his family wasn't there.
And that when we get further into this evidence, we're going to see that just about everything this man ever did is in this home. Okay. Uh, like, when you see some of the stuff that they pulled out, it's pretty crazy. And here we go. Just the digital devices alone. Okay. 15 cameras, 9 Wi-Fi routers, 27 computers, 46 cell phones. Why do you still have 46 cell phones in the house?
Especially ones that you allegedly used to contact murder victims on. I cannot
Mhm.
understand.
Yep. And then 58 internal hard drives and 22 external hard drives. When you kill your computer, you take your hard drive out. Why are you keeping it?
Right.
What if you're, especially if you're a serial killer, Alana?
Right,
Why are you
exactly,
keep?
and we're gonna get into all this later, but when you see the bail document and which contains the planning,
Mhm.
planning
Yeah.
document,
Yeah.
it
The
makes
planning document.
makes a little less sense even because of what's written there. Like, why would he hold on to all this stuff? We know he's a hoarder, so maybe that's
Absolutely.
why.
Here you go. 44 SD micro cards, 42 USB devices, 17 tablets, and 8 laptops, 11 music devices. I'll remind you, there's only 4 people that live in this house. Okay, here's a big one. 50 hotel cards. He kept 50 hotel cards. That's, to me, okay, I know I watch a lot of true crime and I fall asleep to a Discovery ID, and Criminal Minds and Mind Hunters are some of my favorite channels,
Oh, me
okay?
too.
Shows, okay? 50 hotel cards screams trophy to me,
Agreed.
okay?
I
Okay,
totally agree.
okay. 4 GPS devices, okay? There's only 4, which means more than likely, based on all the other devices he kept, everywhere he ever went is on those 4 devices, okay?
Probably. At least
36,
places he didn't know how to get to yet.
yeah, 36 SIM cards, 647 CDs, floppy disk, VHS, or miscellaneous tapes. I
Floppy
can't
disk.
wait for the trial. What is on those tapes, Alana?
I
I
I can't even imagine. I know that it took a long time for them to even the law enforcement, I mean, to everything was encrypted. So they had to basically, go get the software from, 1993 or whatever year any of these were from, which is old software and, people don't use it anymore, and that's why it took an extra long time for them to get into all of this stuff, and I don't even think that I'm 99% positive they're not even halfway through it yet.
Yep, exactly. Oh, but Jin made a funny comment I just have to share. He says, of course, there's 647 CDs, right? He says, like, yeah, because who gives away their porn collection? That's
Ugh,
why there's all these hard drives and everything. I'm like, okay, all
spent a
right.
lifetime collecting it.
Yeah, your lifetime porn collection. That's cool as long as it doesn't get you, in court, you know.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yep.
that's pretty cool. Um, but I was you know what? And when Ray Tierney in his press conference was talking about these devices, he's going on, and you could just see his face. He's just like, "Yep,
He's like, "We
yep,
got him."
yep." Don't think we're not working hard. Do you know how much work to go over all of just those hard drives? But
Oh,
it
yeah.
it paid out already. First of all, they found in regards to this new evidence is mostly focused on the two new bodies, and it does support the other charges too. But based on the new body, the new charges, they found evidence of after one of the murders, immediately after seeing that perhaps they saw the truck was identified, he
Yes.
searched for a new vehicle
It that
immediately.
that was interesting, yeah, so that was
Hmm.
after Jessica Taylor's body was found,
Hmm.
and
In
there was a witness.
2003.
Yeah, so she went miss she was last seen in Midtown Manhattan, which is right where he works, his office, on July 19th of 2003. The
Hmm.
last phone call she made was on July 21st at, like, 10 PM, I wanna say,
Yeah, it was in
and
the early, like, evening. Yeah.
and her body was found, I believe on the 20 was it found on the 26th maybe? The 26th, I think?
I think
And
it was.
a
You know what?
a
There's so
witness
much. Yeah.
yeah, there is so much. A witness told law enforcement that they saw the day before on the 25th, saw a car that is very similar to or
Mhm.
described very similarly to his car,
Mhm.
right in Manorville where her part of her body was found at
Mhm.
10:30 at night, and that's when he started looking up, "How am I gonna get a new car?"
And here's what really confuses me, because the truck's been identified, right? And it's dark. Okay. So then he searches for a blue or a white one. But this man just keeps getting the same kind of truck, and it's been identified several times, like during this case. In
Yeah,
other, like later on, we're going to, like, we already found out previously in the bail application originally with the first original three bodies being charged, that the victims, I should say, not bodies. I don't mean to be disrespectful to the victims. I really don't. They they had evidence of seeing, especially when you mentioned Shannon Gilbert, there again, the dark truck, right? Was it not identified in Long Island at the time that she was running around crazy?
you know what? No, I that they knew who drove her and everything there, that's
Well,
I
she
don't
had no, not drove her, him being in the area. Like,
oh, I haven't
I
heard
know
that
that
actually.
she was driven there by a driver. She had a driver. Like, that's all been documented well. He didn't like meet up with her and drive her to this place. Okay. She met someone there, and it is being suspected that it was perhaps Rex Harriman that she was meeting there. So because they did there, what I do believe I read that. I'm gonna have to go back and
No,
find it for
she we
sure.
know who she met with. He you can actually go on, if anybody wants to, you can, log into the New York State court filing website and look up
Mhm,
the case that, Shannon Gilbert's family brought
mhm.
against, um
Oh, in the Shannon Gilbert case, we will. I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to link it in the
it's
description. I'm going to
very
go find
interesting,
it.
but yeah,
I'm going to link
we
it.
know it's Dr.
Mhm.
Peter Hackett was one of the people. There are several people that are
Yeah,
involved.
and there were several people that gave testimony in regards to it. But I know if it's not Shannon Gilbert, I know the truck's been identified
Megan
several
Waterman is who you're thinking
times.
of.
Is it Megan Waterman? Okay.
Yes.
So definitely the dark truck. So it just fascinates me that he just sticks to type. Like, he likes what he likes. Okay. He likes
Yes.
this kind of truck. He doesn't care that I identify it. He's just worried about getting the VIN number or the license, like whatever changed. Like, he don't care. Like, well, let's just buy a new vehicle. Well, they documented that. They also documented, now here's where it gets like a little I go, aha, because they've got DNA matches. Okay. Mitochondrial, I know DNA can be very it's a big issue about how labs do it, about the testing itself. It's a big target for defense attorneys. I get it. Like, I get it. But like, what a coincidence that on the first in 1993, Sandra Castillo would have a hair on her body that actually identifies to the woman that Rex Harriman was living with 2 months prior.
Yep.
I mean, that to me was like, uh-oh, uh-oh. Like, I can see why you've got murder charges on you. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's just interesting to me that all these, with the other victims previously had his wife and his daughter's hair. Now
But
we have this
now
other woman.
we have this other woman, but more precisely, they have now, after his arrest and the swab, the buccal swab, they have identified hairs on Sandra Costello from Rex Harriman himself.
Yes,
Jessica Taylor also has hair from him, and they identified one on Megan Waterman also. Now, definitely to Rex Harriman. Pretty good. Now I know it gets all scientific and there's a lot of back and forth about DNA evidence, but I think it would be true to say, at least from the trials that I watched, that juries love DNA evidence,
they
Alana.
do. And that's gonna be something that the, defense attorney is gonna have to try to, like, break that
Mhm.
illusion for them that because I mean, listen, most people see DNA and say or hear about DNA evidence as a juror or just as a layperson in general and say, "Oh, like, that's a smoking gun," basically, right? I
E
mean,
e exactly. I mean, just following the hearings in the Kohlberger case, for the Idaho murders, the university murders there,
yes,
um, just the delays in the lab getting the report to the prosecution to give to the defense, this has been ridiculously long. It just makes them look fallible and not precise, and it just opens it up for a lot of speculation, you know?
definitely, and I'm sure his attorney is gonna say, oh, like, "Oh, this DNA is great, but, like, human error exists, and it can make
Mhm.
all of this advanced technology very unreliable if, like, whoever was collecting it or
Exactly.
handling it, chain of custody issues, testing issues."
Mhm.
I'm sure he'll also attack the, qualifications of the
Mhm.
analysts and whoever is their expert.
And the process exactly. If they did, even though they have a standard procedure in the lab, if it wasn't documented point by point all the way that that's exactly what was done, it leaves it open for speculation because it's such a scientific and precise process that has to happen for
Exactly.
everything. Like the more scientific it gets to be concrete, the more open for error in little tiny errors because humans are going to human. You put a human in there and well,
Exactly, and I'm sure he'll point out, DNA evidence is circumstantial evidence,
they did, yeah.
which is an interesting point that I feel like a lot of people don't know,
And
but,
I would like you to talk about that because most people believe that that's concrete evidence. That's more like that's not circumstantial, but actually DNA is circumstantial. It's after the fact. The hair itself is the evidence. The DNA match is circumstantial, right?
right, circumstantial evidence relies on an inference in order for you to connect, to a conclusion, basically. So you're infer oh, well, his DNA was here, so he must have done it, right? Which isn't necessarily true. I mean, obviously, we know, like, you could have DNA on you from somebody that you met an hour ago, but you don't really know them.
Hmm.
So,
This is true.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
direct evidence, like you said, is, like, the actual hair.
Is the actual hair. That's the direct evidence. Indeed, the DNA match is circumstantial because you have to make a leap to get not a leap, but you need other things to get there. You need that
Exactly.
process, you need that testing, and it all has to be pristine.
Actually,
Like,
I shouldn't say that the hair is direct evidence. Something like, I take that back. I should have agreed with
how
you,
about the
Claire.
murder
Sorry.
weapon? The fingerprints. The fingerprints are direct, are they
You
not?
know what? They're like something like an admission, or like a confession, like
A
that is
confession?
direct. That's
Yeah.
direct evidence.
How about an
Um,
eyewitness?
Video
Is that direct?
surveillance,
Video surveillance, him buying the cell phones, that's
stuff
direct.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tangible things, things you can prove came directly from him that he did it, no doubt, like, or within a reasonable doubt, like text messages on your phone. They may be circumstantial to the crime, but it's still direct kind of evidence, right?
In a way, I see what you're saying, but not. It's not exactly. Something. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like eyewitness testimony is direct evidence.
Hmm.
Like if where a witness describes, whatever they saw. circumstantial evidence is the evidence that's used to imply a fact, but not prove it directly.
Okay, here's a technical question. So if the eyewitness sees you standing over the body with your hand on the knife, okay, is the knife the murder weapon, direct or circumstantial evidence?
Oh, that
I know
is a
the
technical
eyewitness
question.
yeah, because I know like this is the things that drive me crazy at night, like trying to explain to people the difference between circumstantial
So I think I
and the
would say
physical.
that the direct evidence is still the eyewitness's
Is the
testimony,
eyewitness
but
testimony,
and
right?
the knife is still circumstantial, even though obviously taken in context with everything else, you're gonna say, well,
Exactly. Like his
but again, you have
fingerprint
to
on
rely
it.
on another inference in order to
You
get there.
exactly, and that's what I was trying to get at. That's what I was hoping you would say. Actually, the best way to decide if it's circumstantial, if you need another inference of something to get to make that concrete evidence, like
Exactly.
the exact process of the testing, the fingerprints actually occurring on the knife, even though the eyewitness saw you with the knife. Okay, like um, something else. Okay, the body on the ground, not being alive anymore. Like all of the like you need something else
It's like
to
painting a
add
whole
to it.
picture and bringing it together.
Exactly. Oh, but those that's a whole nother stream that we can do. I did
Yes,
it.
definitely.
I have done one on evidence when we were going over the Murdaugh trial. I did it with the guy who runs foul play. It was so great. Doctor was so good, and I just love talking about those minute details. Actually, make the process in court fascinating to me. It's not just the legal documents, but what actually happens in court because of it. So we've already talked about that. Witness three, they identified the hair on Sandra Costello was prior to the disappearance of the murder. She was living with the
Re
defendant.
Yes, with
We're
Rex.
already calling him the defendant. Look at that.
Oh, that's
Well,
okay, he
you can
is.
tell because I actually pulled this right from the legal document because I don't like um in law enforcement in all the documents they just refer to this person as witness three. I believe we're going to get testimony from this person because they did get a volunteer buccal swab and she's been cooperating. um yeah, they secured everything with her consent, so there's no
Yes, I know
doubt
for
there.
now they're actively trying to keep her anonymous. I'm sure down the road that will not be the I mean, they'll have to come out
Yeah.
with it, but for now
Well,
she's
once the witness list is there, but like in New York, criminal there's no cameras in criminal court, are there? Like
I
as
know
far
there
as I
could
know.
be, as long as it's not in a federal,
Because this is Long Island. This isn't the state of New York. So in Long Island, we can
No, it is,
have
it's still
court,
the state of New York.
but will we be able to perhaps see
But
the court
possibly
case?
somebody would need to, we'll have to, like, petition the court for it, but, it depends on what the judge says. It's really up to the judge.
Yeah, because I know they kept everything with Trump out for sure. Like they did. Nope.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, that's good to see because this is gonna be. I can't wait. I'm gonna be following it even in the news afterwards because like it's gonna be what comes out. I can't wait to see with all of that digital evidence. I can't wait to see
Yeah.
what
I'm
they
in
do
that
because
court all the time. I'm certainly gonna do my best to stop
mm,
by.
already they've got phone logs that prove that the family. Now here they're trying to prove that he had unfeathered access. So they're proving with the phone logs, both personal and business, okay, that he was calling Vermont where his family was staying on vacation.
Yes, from I
Um,
think both from his landline at home
mhm. And
and from his
and
office.
and from his office. So his personal phone and his business phone both were contacted at that period of time, and this was in July. So this one is actually related to
Jessica.
Jessica Taylor, or that he had unfeathered access to the home. Okay, at the time they don't have to prove that Asa and the family weren't there for Sandra Castillo because he was the only occupant of that home at the time of her demise. So they said he had unfeathered access. They didn't get no phone documentation. His own calendar, which, like, if you're going to keep all 58 of your hard drives, people, and you've deleted stuff, just know it doesn't matter that you deleted if they can get to the hard drive. Okay. If you don't get rid of that hard drive,
Or
you,
all of them, yeah,
yeah,
it's
you're done.
wild that he
You're
held
done.
on to all this. I
Oh,
think he is a collector. you know, like a
I think he's full of himself. I think he's quite the collector of this everything that he did involving this stuff, as we're gonna see. He's a he I can't help but think he's like classic serial killer. Like,
well, it's interesting because in ways he is incredibly organized, but then in other ways he's an incredibly disorganized killer. So it's interesting. You don't
it's
see that a
it's
lot.
he is, and he even we're gonna get to the fact that he actually talks about he actually chastises himself for that, like, later on.
Oh,
Okay,
right.
so
I
okay,
actually
oh,
forgot. You're right.
yeah, in the document, yeah, because he's like because he reads about these stuff and he's like, "Oh, I should have did this. Oh, I should have that." Like, yeah, maybe you should have cleaned out the basement like before they
Right.
came and got
Right.
you. Like that would have been a good move. Like hire a dumpster, send it away. But this is his own calendar where they're documenting that the family was away and that he had it there. So and he deleted that too, but that's not unusual to delete that. But there's my eyeballs, Alana. This is exactly how I felt about it when I saw this. I looked and I could not shut my eyes. Like they were
I
like a cartoon character. I felt like when I'm like, he wrote a blueprint. Tell me he didn't write he wrote a blueprint on what he was doing. Now, if he's Brian Kohlberger and a student of criminology, a defense attorney could rip this to shreds. That could have been a homework assignment, okay? Like, for all
absolutely. That's so
okay?
true.
But Rex Harriman is not Brian Kohlberg. He's a 60-year-old architect, okay, in New York,
Yeah.
who is writing out lists of the problems with the murder, the supplies he needs, DS. They're going to tell us what these mean. Okay.
Yeah.
This actual piece is the most damning part of the evidence that I've seen so far. It's some people are telling me I'm crazy because the DNA is it. And I'm like, no, this is so much more. This is intent. This is state of mind. And when we get into it, like it's process, it's like gives them places to look. It is like a gold mine for the
Agreed.
investigation.
Agreed. It gives them so oh my gosh, it's wild. There's so much information in here.
Yeah, like all they have to do is start looking for all his receipts when he bought this stuff. And it's the day before the murder that he bought foam drain cleaner and film and hair nets and bags of tape. Anything on that list of supplies. One receipt is going to turn a jury, in my humble opinion. Or if they can connect it to the day before or a day of or a couple of days before the murder. Like,
Absolutely, and I mean, I wonder if they'll I mean, who knows if he kept everything, like, he seemingly held on to everything, then
mhm.
they very well might. I know there's
Mhm.
one note in here somewhere that says something about, like, pay for your gas and
Oh, well,
gas,
yep. We're gonna get yep. Yep. Absolutely.
and
Because
look at this
this is just a
photo
part of it.
film, which means that he probably took pictures of them.
Right, and there's 647 tapes and CDs in miscellaneous types of recording.
I think he must have forgotten to buy the hairnet.
I think so. The hairnet, or like, change your clothes, take a shower offsite. Okay, the serial killer advice here, okay, people? If you're gonna do this stuff, take a change of clothes or buy new clothes, go to a hotel, shower, use all their soap, do everything, strip down, put on new clothes, then go do whatever you're gonna do. That way your wife or your mistress or your child or anyone in your life's hairs don't get on the body.
Yep.
Okay? Like, just
Yeah,
just
this is
just
serial
saying.
killing 101.
It's just like I don't mean to make fun. This is terrible what happened to these women, but when I look at what he's done to himself is like, first of all, he deleted this. He tried to get rid of it. I guess he thought
Yes, he
after
did.
he did keep it live and update it for a few years, though. They
I'm
proved that.
do we know the date that this was created?
Yes, in 2002, and he updated it all the
2002.
way to 2004, and then he deleted it.
Okay,
Okay.
interesting.
And it was recoverable. And they made specific notice that as we see it right now is exactly how they pulled it out.
Okay.
Nothing
Yeah,
was
you know what I find interesting too, under the supplies, the second one, lye/acid, we haven't seen that in any of the ones that,
we
he's
haven't
been
because
charged with, and
he
I'm
did
curious about that now.
Now, he did try to get the body so that you would not be identified. He did things to dismember them and alter things like tattoos, especially on
Mhm.
Jessica Taylor. He knew that she would be identified by that very explicit tattoo that she has, so he mangled it. Okay, he tried to, like, mess it up. Not enough. Okay, he has dismembered them. He has wrapped them all in burlap, but he really didn't try with the Gilgo 4 to destroy the bodies.
He didn't at all. They were as far as, if I remember correctly, that cause of death was asphyxia, wasn't it?
It was, and they could prove it, which means the body's intact. Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so
Yeah, he
yeah.
strangled them is what that means, and that I
Mhm,
believe their hyoid bones were broken.
mhm. So whatever he did here relates to Jessica Taylor a lot, okay, and could
Yeah,
even
and,
go towards the 2007, which was Maureen Brainard Barnes. Like, it could go like towards that, but you're going to see, like, he did alter this a lot. They said that they could tell that he edited it, and I do forget the exact deletion date, but I know that it was created in early 2002, which was after Sandra Costillo, but we don't know Costilla. We don't know if there was another document prior, or who knows, he could have kept it on a legal pad in his office at that point,
right.
you
He
know.
probably would have been better off doing that.
Yeah, which I'm surprised they haven't, like, found stuff like that, like, in his legal notes, whatever. But anyway, this is exactly how it appeared. They're making specific that that's exactly how they found it. Now, the rest of the slides are going to be all chopped up because, of course, I'm making notes.
Before you turn, what do you think about, the 4th column, the one all the way to the right?
Target.
And
That
what do you
means
think
victim.
T1 Megan means? What do you think that means?
I That's why I'm not sure when he deleted this, because Megan is in 2010.
Yes, and as far as I remember, there was some speculation that she had met him before, Megan Waterman.
Maybe she did, and if she met him during this period, and then he went back, and then she got the creeps and left, and he went back and found her again in
It
2010.
it was her roommate that was the one that said he saw her get into a, dark colored car or whatever,
Mhm.
Megan
Yeah.
Waterman's roommate, so
Mhm.
that person saw the car, so I think he had been on several, if you wanna call them dates, I don't know what word to use,
Well, he did hook up a lot. We showed that. We saw pictures of his ads, like his swipe right applications, his
yeah,
app.
so
Um
that's interesting.
Yeah, but it does mention Megan. It also says small is good, meaning easy to control. They all have small body types, easier to control. And T unknown black. I don't know what that means. I think there are quite a few of them that have some ethnicity to them, but I'm not sure.
Could be
Like,
reference to, Castilla.
it could, because that was in 1993, you know.
Yeah, that might make sense.
And I don't know if he's thinking that, like, if they're sex workers, less people will be working for them, especially, with families, and I
That's
don't know.
true.
But it's very hard to
Victimology.
understand that part. Although we do know that law enforcement is saying that TRG means target. It's
Yes, like
that's
victim.
appropriate. Okay. DS is dump site. The rest is pretty clear. DS, they mean dump site. Dump site on Mill Road. Dump site number 2. Question. Dumpster site. Next time, recon dumpster locations. Okay, so meaning he
So
didn't move the first couple of bodies. To me, that means he didn't move the first couple of bodies.
or did
We
he
know,
not dispose of them in a dumpster? Yeah.
right? We know he didn't move Costillo.
This guy
Like,
also doesn't know how to spell.
Costilla, he did not move. They found her where, like, well, he moved her from the murder site and dumped it in the woods. Like, he did move the body. I don't mean he didn't move the body at all. I mean, he's like, not, like, it wasn't really, hmm, it's out in the open.
Right, right.
Like, not the open, it is a wooded site, but I
No,
mean,
but
it was
obviously somebody found it pretty soon after that, so
they really did. I mean, people walk through there. They, the hunters, people walking their dog found Taylor. Like it wasn't as careful. It's kind of like he's checking himself here a little bit. Like he's scrutinizing his activities on how we can do things better. But he still left so much. Like what we don't see on here is get rid of your devices. We don't see like get rid of like
I know.
tangible evidence.
I
We do
guess this
see.
was, in the '90s, people weren't worried about that yet.
I guess they weren't. They really weren't. Okay, so here is where they start setting up. Now, here he also does pre-prep, prep, and post-event, which scared me. Okay. Um, this highlighting was done by the prosecution office in the actual bail application. They are focusing on the fact that they can now have places to look, and this all ties in. They clearly say that DS means dump site, and that TRG clearly means the targets and or the victims. Okay, but the pre-prep was kind of interesting. Vehicle inspection. Make sure you don't break down.
Make sure
Okay.
your tires have air in them.
Mm-hmm. Recon the pickup zone for video cameras, recon all video cameras, weather report, uh, locate dump site number 2, just in case you can't use dump site number 1, I guess.
You know what's weird? Mill Road, I know where that is, and it's not far from me.
Yeah. Is it which area of it is that maybe
It's
you don't
actually
want to say.
nowhere near where any of the bodies were found.
Right. So that's a dump site that perhaps now we're going to hear more about because I would imagine law enforcement's going there.
Yeah, I
They
would think
are
so too. There's
definitely
literally
all
only
over
one
it.
Mill Road on
Mhm.
Long Island, so
And this is why they think that the murders may have happened in his home. Actually, they feel they have enough evidence to say that they've happened in his home with unfettered access because he sets up a stage, he's got a holding area, he builds a table. Crossbar, I don't know what that means. Hard
it
point.
it was in the document. It's something that's used for structural support underneath tables, which obviously also plays into his, his architectural background, and
Oh.
I wonder, I think personally, of course, like, what do I know? But I think that this is probably where he did this dismemberment.
Hmm. Yeah, his mutilation, like, that he's yeah. It's very distressful. His post events, not only are they spelled incorrectly, he didn't do a good job. Okay.
Destroy.
Destroy the file. Like, yeah, get rid of the hard drive, dude. Okay.
He disposed of the pictures, but not of the hard drives.
Exactly. It says dispose of pictures. So what are those 647 tapes? Like I'm curious, like what he did. Change the tires, actually pretty clever. Most of the time they can get you with tire tracks to identify you circumstantially to the vehicle, into the crime scene, or to the body dump location if they can match your tires. So it was pretty smart there. He burns the gloves. Okay. But there's hairs all over the body. Like I don't get this guy. I
I don't
don't
get it
get
either.
this
And wasn't there like something, and we may have passed it already, but didn't it say something like something about tape, like don't use tape?
I think that might be coming up. If not, I'll
Oh,
go back
okay, okay.
to the first one. And then have a story set. In other words, an alibi. But none of his alibis actually panned out. Like that's why he got charged.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm curious to see what Michael Brown will be bringing forth as defense. Because one thing I forgot to mention while they were in court, and Michael Brown was actually shocked about the charges. And yet I thought that one of them he was not aware of, that he was even a suspect in. And yet I thought that law enforcement kind of gives them the defense like a heads up, you know.
Usually that's the case, but I guess not
Yeah.
this time. I mean, I
I'm
guess
just like,
in this
you know,
situation, he's not going anywhere, so they're not
so I
worried.
guess he had time to read. He told the judge, I'll be reading up on it. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's good on you, Michael
I
Brown.
will say
I'm
I
sure.
felt like his demeanor was different, with these 2 recent charges.
I think the overwhelming amount of investigation that he's that he's dealing with. Like, he's going through the stuff. They've started discovery, right? I mean, they started giving him stuff. So
Yeah,
I
they've
think
gotten
I
s
think
I know
he's
he's gotten some stuff, I know he's also still waiting for some stuff, and, like, it's not abnormal for that to take some time, but
mhm,
I think that it would be best for the prosecution to do it as quickly as possible, just in light of,
right.
or not
It's
like, to be
yeah.
ethical and just to make sure that there's
Well,
no questions here.
exactly. If you're going to be out there like DA Tierney is and talking about the evidence and what you filed, you better be sending it over to the defense too. If you're going to tell the public about it and you're going to be putting it all out there, then yeah, you should be disclosing it. It's only fair, I think. Otherwise, it just makes them look a little like they're holding it up or there's something wrong with it. If they can actually prove everything that they pulled here, I understand why Michael Brown is looking a little different these days.
Agreed.
He wasn't mouthing off. What he did say is, of course, they got hundreds of people involved in this investigation, and there's only me. It was very similar to what John Pryor was saying in Daybell. Look at prosecution has 4 people dedicated to slam him, and the jury, look, it's only me defending him. Like,
That's
trying to
usually
make
how
us.
it goes.
But that's how it goes, right? You get a
Yeah.
defense attorney, you
I
don't
mean,
get
for
a
the most
defense
part, unless you
team.
have a very wealthy client who can,
Or unless you're Alec Baldwin and you got like 7 attorneys, like,
yeah, or unless you're, O.J. Simpson and can compile, like, a team
oh
of.
my God, did he not have like the cream? Like he had a lot of
Exactly, and I'm
people.
not saying Michael Brown's not a good lawyer, but, I mean,
What he is, he's a good defense. He is an excellent defense attorney.
yes, he
I've checked
is.
his record. He's really got a great record. But I can imagine he's overwhelmed, and I can imagine that's what his demeanor was like in court. He was a little stunned.
Yeah,
Of
and I'm sure this is not his only case either.
and to me, it looks like so far in regards to the investigation and the way Ray Tierney is having it, it looks like a lot of I's are dotted and T's are crossed here. Like
I
they
think
they
so too.
uh,
They've done a very good job in the past 4 years like,
yeah,
regarding the investigation and
yeah.
everything.
It just
Much
looking
more much better than they did in the
yeah,
10 years prior.
just looking at the what they're presenting in the superseded bail application, which by the way, Rex Harriman on these charges pled not guilty, and the judge is keeping him in jail. He's not getting out on bail.
No, of course
Yeah,
not.
okay, so that was all said and done in the court hearing. Well, they had this document prior, and that's what prompted these searches.
Yes.
Okay, and that was even 2 months ago. The first searches were in April. Okay, and so they're taking their time. Like, they are doing it step by step, and every piece leads to another, and they're not just rushing to do it. Like, when you read the bail application, you could see it's step by step by step. They want to lay it all out to the jury. It's like a full story. It
It's very
doesn't.
clear and it's very convincing. It's laid out well, it's
Mhm,
organized well. I think it's easy for anybody to
yeah,
understand.
but
I really
yeah.
suggest everybody read it if you can. I think it's like
I linked
37
it.
pages.
It's only 30 odd pages, and it's linked in the description. That's one thing, Alana, I do with everything. I link where we're getting all the
Oh,
information to
I'm
everybody.
sure. I was
And
just putting it
I
out
even
there
put
that it's
I
easy to
even put
understand.
DA Tierney's interview, his press conference afterwards, so they could hear the actual words like that he said. Like, so I don't like to misquote. And I want them all to make up their own minds too, just like I do.
Exactly.
I don't want to push my opinion on anybody. I might have a strong opinion about certain things. I am looking at what I think is a pretty darn good case. But then again, I read 147 pages in an affidavit against Barry Morphew that fell apart. Like, it was the longest one I'd ever read. I thought they had nailed him. It was all circumstantial, but there was so much of it. It was and look what happened.
You never know.
Just awful, just tossed aside. They've got DNA they didn't test that belonged to other people. They didn't send stuff to the defense. They had Linda Stanley over there messing everything up for the whole prosecution. Um, so stuff happens. Like, as
Definitely, and I'm
yeah.
sure that in this case, Attorney Brown is gonna say, "Well, they stored this incorrectly or something like
Mhm,
this for all these years while they didn't have the proper technology," things like that.
mhm. I think that's why they're being so careful about where they get something and what state it's in. Like, I have not seen in a legal document before saying we pulled it from the drive and this is exactly how it appeared, and then we went and highlighted all this stuff so that you understand. Like, they're really making it clear, like, we didn't, like, that wasn't there.
Yeah, they're
This
saving
is how
the
we found it.
original as well. They
Mhm.
have their working copy.
Exactly. And they're making a point of it. So here's the stuff I think you might have been talking about, like when he starts to talk about how he starts correcting himself. You know, he does the recon reports, vid cams on live route 112 to route 110, old to 33. Vid
So
cams on the
this is
South
actually Route
Parkway.
110 is right near where I grew up.
Okay. And that's not near the dump site or his house, correct?
No, it's not.
Yeah. And
It's
this is
further
what
north.
And this is the kind of notes that are in this thing that leads me to believe that there is more to be discovered. Like, we've got a murder from 1993, and the next one is 7, 8, 9, 10 years later that we know of. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, a 4-year difference between 2003 and 2010 doesn't make sense to me, because then we get a rush 3 years later after 2010. We got from 2010 to 2011, we've got a hotspot of dumps. And they are saying, like, so some of the other bodies may have been dumped around the same time, but they're not able to actually link
Determine
them
the
to
exact
him.
date.
And something like this leads me to believe, as well as the other slide, that there were other dump sites that were considered for quite a long period of time, especially back in the time frame where we do not have any other bodies or murders to link him to. And so I'm wondering, like, you know, they're very, very busy. Apparently, I see why this task force is so big, because they have extended it per what Ray Tierney, the district attorney Tierney, said. It is now well beyond Gilgo Beach. The investigation is much larger than Gilgo Beach now. And it's these documents, I think, that are leading it that way. He's actually putting the breadcrumbs out there for
Agreed.
this
He's
all to
basically
happen.
leading them to him at this point.
Yeah. This is what you were talking about. Remember, don't charge the gas. Like,
Yeah.
don't have a gas receipt.
Yep.
Okay. But, like, how are you going? I hope you paid cash for all the other supplies too, if you were
Right.
smart enough to do
Shouldn't that
this.
be for that's just very odd. Certain
Mhm,
things are so meticulously thought out and
mhm.
other stuff just is left. Like I don't get it.
Yep, or other dump sites and other bodies. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah, I'm thinking that that's what we're leading to, because also he reprimands himself. Hunt too long, seen an area too long. This chills me when I read this. He
Yeah.
hunted his victims.
Or
He
the
called
part
them, he stalked them, he hunted his victims. This
agreed. And
uh
do you have another slide? Is there another page that says something about
yep. Body prep and dispose of. Is this what you were talking about? Dispose of plastic
the
bags?
next time thing? That really chilled me.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. That I'll just jump ahead. Yeah, see? I'm like, what? I don't use red, right, guys? I don't type in red, but yeah, for this, I'm like, what? Next time? Here we have intent. Here we have premeditation. Here we have mindset. Here we have total serial killer vibe. Like,
Agreed, and I mean, like, saying hit them
mhm,
harder, meaning I didn't hit whoever he murdered before this, that he
yep,
needs to do this differently next time. I mean, I don't know how he's gonna get
yeah.
around that.
If you really want to get creeped out, the next line, get more sleep and noise control so you can have more playtime. Like,
Disgusting. This is what leads me to believe that it was in the house. Noise
it was
control.
definitely in the house, noise controlled, like, so the neighbors don't hear. Get more sleep. Your family's away. Don't go to work the day before. Like, go to sleep. Like, sleep all day. Like, so you have the energy, right? Use push pins to hang drop cloths from the ceiling, not tape. Yeah, that was a good advice, and you took it too late. because Tierney says they found tape remnants where you didn't do that.
And the tape that he's used, I think it was the first 3 that he was charged with that had hairs on them. Wasn't the hair in the tape?
It was in the tape. Yeah, one was under the body. The Costillos are on the body. The ones that were wrapped in burlap, it's in the burlap and or the tape. Yes, they found them. And Juju's right. Like, hit harder. Too many hits to take them down. This is why he went with small framed women. This is why he did that. I agree. Easier to control. This is exactly why. Yeah, Mousy, I would say Dexter vibes, except for Dexter is my favorite serial killer, even though he's fictional, because he did it for all the right reasons. And I can't help but think he's kind of like a hero.
That's fair. I think that's the point.
And he's the most lovable. I say this all the time. Come on, and the way that Michael, like the way he was played by the actor, I'm sorry, he's the most lovable serial killer.
That was a great show.
I love that. Like, how to make a serial killer likable. Who knew it was possible?
Smart, a very smart idea.
And if you really want to get into it, the series is great, but get into the books. Oh my God. The books were, oh my God. Like, that's all I can say about it. I'm actually letting people know too much about me. Yep. I'm a freak for the serial killer, Dexter.
I am too. Don't worry about it. You're in good company.
Okay. I'm glad I'm not alone. Yeah, and some of my chat will agree because we've talked about Dexter before, but this is very scary though, because this is a real man on trial, and there are real victims. We have faces, we have names, we know family that is suffering. At the actual press conference for Ray Tierney did, Gloria Allred is representing Jessica Taylor's family and several of the other victims that he was previously charged for. And she is an activist lawyer, very prominent in New York. Most of you know her name. I can give you a link to
she was big with the Me Too movement. Trying to think of who else. Yeah. She's a very well-known attorney and
very
represents
well-known.
A lot of female victims.
A woman's victim advocate, I would say that. I don't like to associate. I know she's very up with the Me Too stuff, but that leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
I just meant that might be where people are recognizing her name from.
Yeah, you will, but she is for women's advocates. I'm glad that she's helping the families with all of this. I think they need to get good representation, especially with the media getting involved and everything else, and especially for those that aren't the ones that have not been charged yet.
Yes, like Valerie Mack,
Shannon Gilbert. Let's keep the focus on the unsolved portion too. Like, not that this is solved. We don't have a conviction. We have a suspect, which is more than we've had, since 2022, since the start of the discovery of the bodies, back in 2011 when they pulled them all up.
Yeah, that was in 2011. Yes.
And what's remarkable is like 2 of those murders were fresh that year.
It truly is remarkable. You're right.
And the whole Shannon Gilbert thing, it's just like, that drives me crazy. We do have to talk about that one.
I would be more than happy to do that sometime. I would love to talk about that part.
Yeah, because they definitely, and I don't want to keep you too much longer. I'm going to go back just so that they can see. The other 2, like, here he does chastise himself. Okay, he's talking about how to correct some things he thought were like leaving him out. He puts his cell phones in writing on his blueprint document for crime here.
I don't understand that either. And he writes old as if like that's not his number anymore.
Yeah, like, okay.
It was probably one of the burner numbers. I'm sure they connected that to a burner.
Which they have video of him buying, which is like, wow. Like, come on. Like, dude. Like, okay. All right. Body prep. Wash the body inside in all cavities. Remove trace evidence, fingerprints and hair. Remove trace DNA. He did not do a very good job.
No, he didn't do any of these. Well,
remove the ID marks. Now, he tried to do this several times. I mean, Jessica Taylor specifically, he did try to get that tattoo off, and he he did remove marks from torture, which he didn't do a good job on her body either. Isn't that the one
No.
where they had the nipple manipulation thing that was going
Yeah,
on?
and there were also, like, blunt force, like, knife wounds, like, stab
Mhm,
wounds, like, all
mhm.
and I don't know if was that Jessica or was that
There was a Sandra. I think that's quite a few of them have
yeah,
that, but
I know
yeah,
Sandra had yeah, you're right,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
quite a few of them.
Yeah, and remove head and hands. Well, he definitely did that with Jessica. I think that might be a note he added after the Sandra Costilla event. Package for transport sends chills. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's
We know about the same burlap for everybody, like from the Gilgo Fall, the Gilgo Beach Fall that they grouped together. We know about the burlap wrappings in all of that. That's one of the things that makes me believe some of the other bodies are not related,
yes, I
because
agree.
they're there around like years earlier, but around the same time, and there's no wrapping, there's no there is some disfigurement, but that's a big thing in the mafia. Like, you just let's just chop up things so it can't be identified easily. It's common with serial killers, unfortunately.
Yes, it
um
is.
yeah. Well, dispose of tools and devices, clothing, personal items, drop cloths, wipes, props, toys, and wood items. Anything that I touched. Oh, anything that touched target one. I think T1 means target one.
I think so too, I think s
Uh,
that's how I read it.
destroy book and computer files.
I guess he
Big
forgot that one.
fail. Guy, like you wrote it, you misspelled it, like you didn't do it, okay? And
It's
then burn the
wild
gloves
that that's
again.
what he forgot to do,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Dispose of box of plastic bags to avoid trace.
I wonder what that is.
I hope you did destroy the receipt where you bought them since you listed them in the prep. Like, I do hope you followed through. Like, there's no follow through here. All right. But this part about the next time. Now, here's the thing that really got me. He actually corrects himself and looks at the whole reason he's doing all this kind of stuff and how it relates to other serial killers. They found
Yes.
the first book back there on the property, okay? The cases that haunt me. That was also written by John Douglas. But these page numbers are references to the Mindhunter book, which they did not find on the property. It might have been in his office. I don't know. They searched his office, I'm sure, but they did not find a copy of it. Um, spur of the moment, Stockholm syndrome. The more you do, the more clues you give. Look at the painting. Isn't that what you said? The case is a painting and the evidence is like
Yeah, I did
the
say that. I guess
item.
maybe
Yeah.
I'm thinking
That,
too much like a serial killer.
or someone who is fascinated with them, like John Douglas, who
Yes,
did
that's true.
Mindhunter in the FBI. Let's think we're more on the FBI side of this, like Alana. I don't want people thinking we're serial killers. We're more on the prosecuting and the fascination of serial killers and like why do they do what they do rather than like let's figure out what that feels like. I don't want to know what it feels like to be a serial killer. I
No,
do
I
not.
could never.
Yeah,
I could never.
yeah, yeah. No, the what, the why, the who. In this part, which really gets me, not only is it misspelled, but he totally doesn't get this. Organized versus disorganized. Disorganized, that whatever that says.
I know. I
Okay.
so
But the pages that he references, sex substitution,
that's like using something else aside from
well, most serial killers do have an inclination to some kinds of sexual need for this process.
yes,
The
definitely.
state of the bodies, the fact that they're all women, the fact that they're all sex workers, the fact that he plays with them. Mhm. I would say that that indicates that he's following those patterns, first of all, and he knows about it.
Agreed. And look at how he
Okay,
spelled
page 63. I
mut
page 175. I think that says mutilation.
it's supposed to, I think,
I
yeah.
think so. But I want to talk to this architect. Like, I guess he can draw straight lines and use CADEC, but he can't spell. People,
Okay, he
he
certainly
cannot
can't spell it.
spell.
And interestingly, it seems to get worse and worse as this document goes on.
I think it's because he gets excited about knowing he's all this. Like,
I
he's
think so
really.
too.
I am so freaked out at the idea that he is so into this. Like, it kind of like it just really weirds me out. But the
Now,
mutilation is something he did a lot
do
of.
you think that he was writing this, like, as he was trying to figure out, like, his own, scheme here? Like, am I organized or disorganized? Like, or was he doing this in a way that he was gonna use it later to try to throw off law enforcement?
Well, if the last part is true, he totally failed.
Well,
Um,
he has failed at a lot of
yeah,
his
I
checklist
I
here.
think it actually shows his state of mind. Like I said here, it shows his intent. He's researching it. He wants to get better at it because I'm thinking, like I said, proclivity. He's got a obsession with doing it. There's something wrong, obviously, with this man, and he needs to do this for whatever reason. But being a professional and an architect and being the way he is, he has to get really good at it. And so he's studying it. I, that's what I'm thinking. But it's just, and how will he be judged? Apparently, he has a big issue about being judged. I remember how mild he was in an interview I saw him doing when he was talking about his architectural company and what he does for a living and all. And I remember the interviewer later putting out statements that he did not want to be challenged. You couldn't go against anything he said. It really mattered to him how he appeared. He was very well groomed, even though you would think a man so huge would be a little more not so well groomed. Like, I don't want to, like, listen, I'm not disparaging anything, but it would be more difficult, but he was very precise, very, very particular.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
so image to me is like a big thing for him. So if he's going to have this proclivity to kill because he needs to, he wants to get really good at it.
He
But
wants
it's
to be
not
the
like
best
you
at
could
it.
take a class or get a degree. It's not like you can go to the FBI and say, well,
"Hey,
how
I'd
did,
like to learn how to be
yeah,
a great serial
yeah.
killer."
Because then you get yourself on a list, people. It's bad
Mm.
enough that our Google searches are putting us all on lists. Okay. Like, at least he did that. Like, he's reading about it. He's going to the source. And what better source than the FBI that actually said, this is what serial killers think. This is how they do it. He's going right to the source. The only source that we have out there is like the gold star for behavioral, of a serial killer or a murderer. Right?
And, I wonder if he's so concerned about his, how he appears to other people and their judgments. I know that there have been reports that he was bullied a lot in high school, and I wonder if that plays a role in any of this.
Um, but I would believe commonly from what I've seen that a lot of that happens to us in our childhood and all, those make us a little more determined about
Yeah,
image.
that always interests me in these cases.
Mhm,
I know also his father passed away when he was 12, so it was, just his mother was taking care of
mhm.
him, and from what I understand, she was very overbearing, and I think that that probably has something to do with, obviously, his feelings towards women, allegedly.
Well, we could say he probably, with 6 murders he's being charged for, we could say he might have like a thing where he doesn't like he's got something against them. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that is his choice. Or on the other side of the coin, the defense might say, well, that was just convenience because, like, if you're going to do a psychological analysis of them, you could also say, well, maybe that was convenience because they're smaller and he can do what he wants and it's time saving. And, because like there aren't as many male sex workers and I don't want to have sex with a male. He chose women. Okay. So, and it's not that he hates women or that he's got a mother thing going on. But
True.
he is married and he's married to someone who doesn't have like strong American ties. She's more European, correct? A different
I believe
mindset.
so, but I don't wanna say for sure because 'cause I'm not
Yeah, and I don't want to speculate on their family or their home life, but it does seem like she thinks a little bit different than the average American woman who might
sure.
wonder what the hell you're doing for the 5 days that I'm on vacation with the kids. Like,
Right, right,
yeah.
and,
And
like,
why
that's
does the house smell like bleach and pine saw? Like, I know
oh,
you cleaned the bathroom, but like
well, you
it's
obviously didn't clean the house because all these hard drives are still here.
no, that house I heard was a hoarder's
Yes, it was that's what
paralyzed.
I heard as well. It was, like, very bad.
Upstairs, downstairs, everywhere. Based on the reports that came out through the search, it's one of the reasons it took so long is like, where do you look? Like everything was everything. Like you're wondering like where people sat, you know.
Ugh,
Uh,
that's
yeah,
yeah.
unfortunately. But that was my presentation of the new information, people. I'm sorry I haven't been looking for a lot of the questions, but I'm going to go back now. If you put a question in the chat and it wasn't addressed by Alana or myself, if you want to discuss it, just tag me right now and I'll pull it up. If you have a few minutes, Alana, I was going to
Yeah,
go
I
another.
got a few more minutes.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you came in and did this with
Oh,
me
thank you for
to
having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm hoping that they find it more interesting to have a more balanced, not just an opinion, but just going over this stuff and another set of eyes to say, "Damn, that just sticks out like a sore thumb."
Sure,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, it's this is a pretty crazy case. I mean, from the beginning of it to now and just all the different tangents that it goes off on, it's really it's a very interesting case.
mhm. When it's obvious that you have now digested the superseded bail application, what
Yes.
what of everything, and I know it was a lot, 30 pages is a lot, but I also know in your profession you hone in pretty well. What stuck out to you the most as like, aha, wow, like that's really bad.
I mean, obviously, even to me, the DNA evidence is not great. And it's actually not even so much, of course, his DNA, but the fact that these women that he lives with, it's their DNA.
Which makes the odds less that it would be both of them, right? On the same body. Like, even if they could say, okay, well, there's this small percentage that it's not Rex Harriman's hair. What are the chances it's Rex Harriman's and his living roommate's hair
Exactly.
on the same body? It kind of really hits more of a home run for the prosecution, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think, whatever that small percentage of people or that it could also be, I think
Hmm.
is narrowed down by the fact that there's connecting circumstantial evidence that places, this other DNA with him.
Hmm. I think so. And but it is a good point that that's if during the trial, the DNA evidence stands. It still has to go through discovery. It still has to go through pretrial. We don't know if it's going to be in there. I have
Right.
followed cases like Johnny Depp, like all the way back to the beginning before it went to the UK with the son and all of that other stuff. And there were things that did not get presented in that case that we knew about that I thought was a slam dunk that got tossed for whatever reason. Okay.
Certainly, that
Um,
could happen, and I mean, obviously, his attorney's gonna fight for things like this that I can't say right now on what basis, but,
right,
they'll
but they'd be
certainly bring
looking,
in
yeah, definitely gonna look at those home runs. Like, I'm thinking that Michael Brown is a defense attorney, and I'm not gonna speak for him, but if I was the defense attorney, I'd be focusing on how that DNA got processed, how they found it, how it got stored, because they
exactly.
they tied it together so many years later, okay?
Yes,
There's a lot of areas you can go at that, and I'm also gonna look at that hard drive and how they got that document. And
definitely,
how
and
can you prove to me? I know you got it out of Rex Harriman's basement, but what else do you got that says it's Rex Harriman's? Like, show me the Microsoft registration, please. That's his hideout. Like,
right,
yeah, right?
right.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, definitely, and I mean, like, I'm sure that the prosecution's gonna put the wife up saying it wasn't mine, and the daughter, the same thing. I mean, I think common sense will lead people to believe that it is his, but you never
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And like you said, the DNA evidence is gonna get attacked. I'm not saying it'll work, but,
Right. And you know what? And I have to applaud you for sticking up for that side of it. Like, we don't know until we know. A trial has to happen. Do you know how many hearings we're gonna have? How many things can actually disrupt this whole process? We're only looking at one side of it right now. Oh,
right.
right.
And at the end of the day, it's the prosecution that has to prove his guilt. The defense actually technically doesn't have to do anything.
Right.
Um,
Michael Brown doesn't have to say a word.
exactly, they don't have to put up a single witness. They can just rest if that does happen sometimes if,
It happened in Lori Vallow. they
Right,
presented
exactly.
nothing, you know.
So the
It
burden
didn't
is on
work.
the state. They have to
It
prove
didn't
their
work in
case.
her favor, but like,
Right.
so
I mean, yeah, of course not,
yeah,
and thank goodness for that.
yeah. Yeah, that was something. I still am recovering from hearing death penalty in Daybell's trial. When the judge
Yeah.
said that, I lost my breath. I had to get off stream. Like, I'm overwhelmed. Like, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, in this case, it's gonna be that they're definitely gonna the defense is gonna point to James Burke, the former
Hmm.
commissioner, and say he, you know, botched this investigation to begin with. How can you trust any of this evidence? It's unreliable.
Yeah.
They
Hmm.
avoided why did he not only saying like the
Exactly. It was under his supervision that a lot of that DNA was, that those hairs were collected. Let's be honest.
exactly, and I
And
am
that's going to be a big issue. I'm looking at it the
exactly.
same way you are. Like, we don't know until we know what the case is going to be when it finally
And
gets there.
they'll certainly point to him as a suspect, as a potential,
Hmm.
suspect in this, because
Yeah.
why else
Yeah.
did he impede the investigation, you know? And,
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying that that's true or not, but it's gonna be something that they do.
Well, but they've got him investigated. They got him in, filed under corruption and in jail. I mean, it's a good avenue to go on if you're the defense attorney for sure.
Yeah, and to
We
be fair, it wasn't just him, it wasn't just James Burke that was
no.
corrupt at that time, it was, like, the entire regime.
There
So
was a whole thing. It was kinda like, it reminds me of, like, what was going on in South Carolina. Yeah, absolutely,
yeah, yeah, similar,
and
similar.
what they're trying to accuse everybody in Massachusetts of, like an organized, like, kind of thing. But sometimes, corruption does happen in police forces, and it usually comes from the top, and if you've got the top actually convicted of it, how can you possibly say nobody below him was involved? Seriously.
Right.
I mean, he gets to order them around in their defense. Okay. I'm not saying like, they should be tried or anything like that, but he gets to order them around. He gets to stop the process. He gets to interfere. He made it difficult for quite a few people, I'm sure.
Yeah, he
And
did.
I want to talk about that more when we do Mac, because that's a big part of Shannon Gilbert in I think maybe even Valerie Mack, I'm not sure. But
You know what
um
else is interesting? That the, Suffolk County Police Department is the highest paid county police department in the entire state.
Mm. Oh, man, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, Ray Tierney's earning his money, I'll tell you that.
Our
Like,
taxes are pretty high out here.
yeah, oh, wow. This is the whole East Coast, though, like, there we go.
Yeah,
I
for
can see,
sure.
like, they were playing around so much in chat, no one has the nerve to put up a question, although Rocket Couch did confirm, and he says, like, serial number, link that to the purchase history when I was talking about the hard drive. Oh, I agree, Rocket Couch, like, I wanna see all that, and I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will eventually, like, somehow, because the way that they're operating, this investigation, they know they need more. They're taking the extra steps to link things appropriately, and but they're not going to show everything. I mean, otherwise the bail application would have been 192 pages, something
Right.
like that. And giving Ray Tierney credit, don't piss off the judge. Don't piss off the judge with 192-page filing.
No,
Could
it's
you agree?
I actually really felt like that document was written well, and it was very clear, like, that's why I said, like, anybody, if you have time, it's really not a difficult read, and it's
Mhm.
very easily digestible. I recommend reading it
I would
and
say
just
that the
getting your
prosecution
own idea.
department. Yep, the prosecution department knew who they were playing to. They played to their audience. They knew it's got to be concise. You don't mince words. Don't repeat yourself. Like, don't drag other things into it. Like, this
That
is it.
is how legal writing should be, but it's not always.
No, God, no. I feel for you. I do, because I've read some stuff that I've just wanted to burn on site
Yeah,
or
sometimes
laugh.
this goes on and on and on about
And some of
yeah.
it's so glorious with precedent, and like, I love that stuff when they actually, well, this is my argument and this is why, this case, this case, this case. Like, prove yourself. Like, when they do that for a judge, they're helping the judge understand where they're coming from and where
Exactly.
actually to look. Like, they do their homework, and I can't help but think that judges love it. Like,
They do.
because
Nobody no judges don't wanna read all of your BS. They just wanna read
Mhm.
the most important points, you know?
I'm trying to find any legal precedent in any argument that John Pryor brought forward at all, ever. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I have to tell you, I actually didn't want to read most of it, but I did. In fairness,
I'm
I did
sure.
read it, but it was frustrating, almost as frustrating as listening to him talk in the courtroom. Like he was obs-
The
he was obsessed with points that were not hitting the jury. And I could say that now because the jury has actually come out and said it. Like the witnesses, I mean, the jury are actually doing interviews now, and they're actually saying this is what we thought, this is like, and like why, like they, even the jury is going, why do you keep bringing up Melanie Gibb? What's the what's like, make your point? Don't just say the name. What are you talking about? Like nobody got it. They did not get it at all. Yeah, but yeah, it was fun. But I think
Well,
if
I
you
I
don't have
was
any questions,
I
oh,
was
I'm
just gonna say one more quick thing that I do
sorry. Mhm.
not see this case going to trial in 2024. Unfortunately, I know we all wanna see that happen, but
I don't see it either. I don't know if he has he actually given up his right to a speedy trial yet? I don't think so. Well,
no, but
but
it's not even I just I mean, this just came out last week,
mhm,
and they
yeah.
have so much more to go through. There's just
Mhm.
no way.
When we get offline here, I want to find out how we can find out what Michael Brown is going to file, like in response, like to any of this. And like that's really hard for New York. Even though I'm East Coast, that's one of the hardest states for me to get anything out of at all.
Oh, I can try to
Yeah.
help you. I'll definitely try.
I'm gonna take you up on that because this is a big one, and I don't want them to have any information that is not like sound coming right from the system. You know what I mean? Because like some of the reporting is good, and they'll link the documents and stuff like coming out of New York. Like I'll go to the Times and things like that, not the Post so much, but the Times, and because they'll link a document or they'll say, and some of the other news organizations will also, so that they have credibility. But a lot of them they just talk about it and they give you quotes. You know, that's how I got the quote from Michael Brown in court because I didn't see the court hearing, but the reporting afterwards, they had in quotes from Michael Brown that he did not know about the second charge, and that like he needs time to catch up, and like they've got this big team and this big investigation, and it's only him, you know, and he's only one man, like you
Yeah,
know.
well, it's exactly, and he doesn't even have all the information yet, so
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, so but I am curious to find out where he's going because I do think he's a good lawyer.
he is a
Um
good lawyer. He is. Whether you like defense attorneys or not, he's a good one.
I'm wondering how Rex Harriman is as a client, though. When I see the pictures, I haven't seen any video, but I see pictures of the hearings. And Rex Harriman, being larger than him and all, always looks like he's paying very good attention to what he's saying, whatever Michael Brown is saying. And I think that's a good sign
I
because,
think so too. I
um,
think
you
he's
know,
listening to his lawyer.
I hope so. I hope so. I would recommend that for that. Don't be a Boone. Don't be a Sarah Boone, people. Don't.
Oh
Like,
my gosh, yeah, God,
yeah, I'm gonna
I'm
cover
gonna
that at
cover
the end
that
of the week.
too.
Are you covering that too? I can't
Yeah.
wait. I'm talking about that at the end of the week. The update on that is like it's predictable. It's almost like everybody in that chat knows what I'm gonna say
You don't even need
already.
to do a stream.
I don't even need to do a stream because it's going to be quite predictable what happened in court, you know. But I've got the audio of the court. I don't have the actual court video. It was not put out by a news organization without all the banners and stuff. Like Law and Crime did it, and some of those, and they like put everything all over everything. Nobody does like a live judges feed anymore. I mean, they do. I mean, I just covered Daybell and they did the live judges feed, but a lot of the courts in Florida don't do that. They depend on the press to actually put it out there
Yeah,
for them.
which it has both have their pros and cons, I would say.
Hmm. I do like to see exactly what happens in the
I
court.
certainly do too, believe me. So I would personally, I want to see it all, but I get why sometimes it's not.
I can understand why a lot of stuff pre-trial is not live because, like, that could actually damage the defendant's right to a fair trial because
Definitely.
stuff because
It
that makes
generally
it
does.
that damages the jury pool if they hear about everything, okay, and then it doesn't get admitted,
Yes.
or there's issues with this, or there's prejudicial information that is discussed in open court that should not that is decided too prejudicial to be presented in court on the record. And whether a jury says they can be unbiased or not, like everybody knows humans gonna human, you heard it.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to forget it? Really? Like, how are you going to forget it?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, but the trial, I want to see the actual process, like with the jury, because I like presenting it with the chat, and I like how the chat tries to be the jury. Like we try to be the jury while everything is
Yeah, well,
unfolding.
that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, and it's fun. It's the end of following all. It makes all of these YouTube streams worth it in the end because you get to see the process. I hope I hope some of the shenanigans that happens, like in the Karen Reed trial, doesn't make it that we don't see live trials anymore. Like this is starting to really annoy me what people are doing, but they're messing it up for everybody. Like the average American that wants to see a trial, you're going to have some trouble.
Yeah, that's very true.
People just don't know how to behave. I don't know what. All right. On that, a lot. Any last words, Alana? I just want to promote your podcast.
I will say I haven't done episodes in a while on my show, but I plan on getting back into them very soon with Sarah Boone as well as this case. So when I do, guys, I will certainly share that with Claire, and she can share it with you, and hopefully you'll take a listen.
In the meantime, I've got her Spotify link down there. I also have her Twitter so that you can follow her and keep up to date. I think your Murdaugh take on everything was great. Your take on Murdaugh was wonderful. So if you guys interested in that case, I know some of us like to go back and look. She's got that up still on the podcast for you to look at. She also did stuff with Kelly, with me, with Justice for Marilyn Manson, and we had some interesting takes on witnesses. We all kind of agreed that not every witness is credible.
Yes,
Not,
definitely
and not every filing's worth the paper it's filed on.
certainly true.
Yeah, it's like you got to look, but it's hard. We actually have to try to be unbiased. You know, we can have our opinion, but listen, what's that saying, Alana? It's not over till the fat lady sings.
Yes.
Okay, it's not over till the jury renders verdict. Like if we're
There you
not in
go.
court, and there's no verdict, it's not over. Like we can't really decide. There's always going to be something coming up, and we have to be open for it, or we're going to miss it and miss some of the fun.
Yep.
So, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Claire.
I had a great time.
Me
And
too.
you're welcome back anytime. And let's share stuff with Boone and all of that. Like I'm open for everything. I want everybody to have their say about everything. And you have a great perspective on it. So I hope it does really well. I can't wait to see you doing your podcast again. It's gonna be great.
Thank you.
Hey. On that, I'm going to say goodnight, everybody. I'm going to put on the outro. I will be just a little bit of channel announcement. Yes, there's a little surprise on the community tab. I've got something else in the works. Like, go take a peek. It's amazing. I say so myself. I'm very excited. Can you tell? Like, I'm stuttering to talk about it, like, because I'm so excited about it. Well, check that out on the community tab. That's all I'm going to say until somebody comes to talk to me about it. But we'll see on that. And I will be doing another true crime episode this week. I don't know which day yet, but we still got Boone. We got Alec Baldwin. We've got Madeline McCann. We've got, like, listen, none of the cases stopped while we were doing Daybell trial. And we've got a lot of catching up. But we'll do at least 3 of them towards the end of the week. And in the meantime, we'll be dropping some Restaurant at the End of the Universe episodes this week also. So stay tuned. And any questions in regards to this case or anything else for myself or Alana, hit the back of the video. If something didn't get addressed or you need clarification, we're open to discuss it all. If there's anything that needs clarification or any misinformation, we definitely want to clarify it. So don't be afraid to let us know about it, okay? Also, members with bingo cards, if you got one, send it to me. Everybody have a good night. Thanks again,
Bye,
Lana.
everyone.
The longest goodbye ever, right? It's like, sorry about that. All right, everybody. Have a good one.